Good morning, everybody. Glad that you could join us for another Wednesday webinar, which is proudly sponsored by the Agency, the Dairy Standard Agency. I'm Jacqueline Odendaal from the DSA, and Jandri Klopper from Plaas Media will facilitate the question and answer session at the end of the presentation. So you are welcome. You are welcome to write your questions in the question bar, or you can raise your hand during the Q&A session to ask your question directly to the presenter. I just want to mention that Jandri will allow you then to speak, but then you still have to unmute yourself. A special thanks to Plaas Media for their marketing and technical support. We have once again an interesting topic today, which is farm audits from best practice to sustainability. And we are fortunate to have an expert, Tanya Blighnout, with us to share her knowledge and expertise on this matter. With this webinar, Tanya will focus on what farm audits involve, who the DSA auditors are, and how the DSA Code of Practice helps milk producers to implement best practice and comply with regulation. She will also explain the purpose of farm audits and how it connects to that much talked about word, sustainability. So please make sure that you have your questions and your comments ready. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Tanya Blighnout, Operational Manager of the Dairy Standard Agency. Over to you, Tanya. We are looking forward to your presentation.
Good morning, Jacqueline, and all the listeners. Thank you very much for the warm welcome. As you know, I always shy away from presentations, but it's really a privilege to talk to you today. For all the listeners, I'm Tanya Blighnout, the Operations Manager of DSA, and also the person responsible to ensure that our audit program keep up with changing times. And it's really a pleasure to guide you through the story of how the South African dairy industry has evolved. Before I continue, I'm just going to switch off my my camera. Bandwidth. So from the early days of regulation compliance to the more holistic sustainability focused system we see emerging today. So this isn't just a story about changing rules or standards, it's about a fundamental shift in thinking. We've moved from simply doing what we required to asking how we can farm responsibly, efficiently, and ethically for the good of people, animals, and the planet. Over the next hour, we'll trace the journey, explore the key milestones, and reflect on how these changes position our sector for a resilient future. So to begin, let's take a step back and see how far we've come. So the dairy industry's path to sustainability unfolded in three main phases as I see it. So the first phase from about the early 1990s into the early 2000s. It centered on regulatory compliance under, at that time, Regulation 1256 and now known as Regulation 961 to ensure hygiene and food safety and facility compliance mainly. So the second phase brought in more focused on good hygiene practices and good agriculture practices, widening the focus to include animal welfare, environmental care, and quality assurance. And the third phase that we are in now moves beyond compliance to embrace sustainability, considering how environmental integrity, economic resilience, and social responsibility work together. Consumer expectations have been a huge driver of this change, as people or the consumer out there increasingly want to know that their milk is produced responsibly. So if we look at Regulation 961, as I mentioned previously known as 1256, under the Foodstuffs, Cosmetics and Disinfectants Act introduced structured hygiene requirements for dairy farms, traceability and documentation. It was a major step forward for food safety and consumer confidence, setting minimum standards for clean production. However, It is largely about compliance rather than improvement. It do not ask producers to go beyond the basics. So nevertheless, the regulations is the foundation upon which more advanced and forward-thinking systems is built. So if we have a closer look into Regulation 961, it focuses on milking shed approval. So it is required that all milking sheds producing milk for human consumption obtain and operate under a certificate of acceptability. It addresses the design standards, so it stipulates requirements for that. It also talks about, for instance, the water quality linked to SANS 241 parameters and standards. Mainly, it focuses on hygiene requirement. So how to establish specific protocols for example, cleaning, disinfection, waste management, the fundamental basics for producing milk safely. And it also allows for inspection mechanisms. So it empowers the local authority to conduct inspections and enforce compliance with stipulated regulations. It's basically a risk-based approach that is followed to compliance, mandating documentation, traceability, and clear accountable mechanisms. But as I mentioned, compliance-only systems are essential but limited. They tend to be reactive, focused on minimum standards, and don't encourage innovation or continuous improvement. They rarely address broader concerns such as environmental sustainability or social impact. In short, they ensure safety but not long-term resilience. So modern dairy farming requires a proactive, integrated approach that not only meets regulations, but anticipates future challenges and opportunities. So if you look, for instance, at the environmental blind spot of regulations, so regulations often fail to address broader environmental concerns, leaving dairy operations vulnerable to resource depletion and pollution. So the transition from compliance to best practice was driven by both internal and external factors, consumer awareness, global market demands, and a recognition that sustainability is good business. So the Dairy Standard Agency began integrating the International IDF Guide to Good Farm Practices and SANS 10049 Good Practice programs into our audit program. So combining basically international standards with local adoption and regulation. This marked a mindset shift from what must we do to comply to what should we do to excel. It fostered education, collaboration, and a culture of continual improvement across the dairy sector. And I'm sure you are aware of the saying, the farm to fork approach. So the outcome of best practice is proactive approach to excellence beyond basic compliance, a comprehensive framework addressing environmental, economic, and social dimensions, and foundation. This approach is the foundation for the Dairy Standard Agency's Code of Practice. So the Dairy Standards Agency's Code of Practice for milk producers was first published in 2013 and updated in 2022, unifying regulation, international guidelines like the IDF guideline, and local best practice into one practical guideline. It is based on 4 pillars: compliance, animal health and welfare. It addresses biosecurity and to some small extent touches on environmental management. So each pillar provides practical, implementable actions or gaps for producers, from veterinary care and disease control to waste management and resource efficiency. The code empowers farmers to improve continuously, regardless of size or production system, promoting quality and sustainability hand in hand. And if you want to have a look at this code of practice, it's available on our website at www.dairystandard.co.za. You just go to guideline tab and you will see it's the top one in the list. So at the heart of all good agricultural practices are 5 interconnected pillars in the management system. animal health and welfare, and that will include nutrition of animals, housing conditions, health management, then milk hygiene and milk quality, environmental management, workforce management, like training of personnel and providing suitable facilities, and risk management. And risk management is the basis of everything. If we do an audit, we always identify risks for the farmers. These elements work together to safeguard animal well-being and product integrity. Balanced nutrition ensures animal health and productivity, and comfortable housing reduces stress and disease. Preventative health management builds resilience, and strict hygiene maintains milk safety and quality. Together, these practices form the foundation for trust and sustainability in dairy production. So if we look at the pillars like under environmental management, we the code of practice address minimum environmental management practices, but focus on the basics like waste management and material use and environmental protection. On the social responsibility side, there's two sides of the social responsibility. There's a social responsibility to animals and the social responsibility to your workers. For your workers, you need to provide good working conditions or acceptable working conditions and provide training and personnel development. On the responsibility to animals, you will have to look at health and welfare, like vaccination programs, disease prevention programs, proper veterinary care. If we talk about nutrition, it's balanced feeding systems, quality feed assessment, and proper nutritional timing. And if we look at housing, for instance, we look at if there's adequate space requirements, if they are met, comfortable bedding is provided, and protection from extreme weather conditions. On the management side, the best practices is always documented. So we look at the documentation system that is built up by policies, procedures, and record keeping is very important going forward. And on the compliance side, if we look at milk hygiene and milk quality standards, we assess if there's a clean milking environment, proper teat preparation, sanitary milk collection, and we also look at the outcomes of milk tests that's done on the raw milk, like the microbiological outcomes, chemical residue, and all the other quality parameters on raw milk. So the audit system itself has evolved over 3 phases, similar to the path of sustainability in South Africa. So from 2006, when we started off with the food safety audits, to 2013, the focus was on regulatory verification. It was a binary process of you pass or you fail. And then it evolved between 2013 and 2022. The focus expanded into quality management systems, emphasizing consistency and continual improvement in GAP compliance. And since 2023, 2023, audits have integrated sustainability measures, assessing environmental management, social and economic performance, and based on risk management on farms. So each phase represents a step forward in professionalizing the dairy production and guiding the industry in South Africa towards fully embedded sustainability at its core. So the DSA audit now measures not only compliance, but provides guidance towards sustainability, as mentioned. It uses a scoring system that reflects performance across 15 sustainability sub-themes, from animal welfare and resource efficiency to innovation and community engagement. This framework encourages producers to see sustainability as a journey of progress rather than a set of rules to follow. So by combining environmental, social, and risk management, it provides a balanced view of farms' overall contribution to sustainability development, despite of its inability to measure sustainability parameters directly. For instance, carbon footprints, methane emissions, nutritional cycling, etc. And I will come back to this statement a bit later in the presentation. So the latest version of the DSI audit, called the DSI GAP Sustainability Audit Criteria, that we've started to implement at some of the producers this year, focus on 4 pillars of sustainability, subdivided in 15 sub-themes, measured by evaluation and validation of about 250 criteria points. Criteria are weighted according to the risk in 4 groups, the major, the minor, and the critical findings. And then there's also 1 or 2 automatic failures. And the score is allocated to every single one of these criteria points. We score them as good, fair, and poor. So as you can see, the DSI audit program has evolved into a cornerstone of a partnership in quality assurance and learning. Initially designed for compliance verification, it now promotes continuous improvement. So the auditors serve as a partner in progress, identifying risk, providing feedback, and identifying opportunities rather than simply enforcing standards. So farmers received a detailed report, and on the screen you can see an example of the summary report, and after that is, I think, 15-page report on each and every criteria that was validated during the audit. And this provides some practical guidance, helping them strengthen their systems and address challenges proactively. And that's very important, to address challenges proactively. This collaborative model builds a culture of excellence and shared responsibility within the dairy community. So if you look at a summary report that we provide for the farmer, he can easily see how many risk factors or non-conformances there are under each grouping. He will also be able to see his gap scoring on the 4 pillars of sustainability. There's a polygram included, so that he, with a bird's eye view, can evaluate where the problem areas are and where he needs to focus to improve. And then there's also scoring per sub-theme, so that it will also tell him where the shortcomings are and where some work is needed to go forward. So the modern dairy sector faces mounting challenges. Environmental pressures such as greenhouse gas emissions and water scarcity, economic pressures from volatile feed and energy costs, and social challenges like fair labor and animal welfare, and shifting consumer expectations. So these factors are interconnected, tackling one after often influenced the other. So if you address one, it will have a positive or negative effect on the other. So sustainability provides the framework for addressing them collectively, creating resilience and innovative opportunities instead of fragmentation. So dairy farming has shifted from maximizing production to optimizing systems. The aim is no longer just to produce more milk, but to do so responsibly with minimal impact. Systems thinking recognizes the interconnection between soil, animal, people, and markets. And I will discuss this system thinking a bit later. So this holistic mindset allows for better resource use, improved resilience, and stronger community ties. It represents a smarter, more balanced way of farming, one that values longevity over short-term gains. So if we look at environmental integrity, managing farms as an integrated ecosystem, recognizing interconnections between soil, crop, and livestock, and climate, economic resilience, diversifying income streams and reducing vulnerability to market fluctuation through complex multi-component systems. And then if we look at social responsibility, ensure fair labor practices and community engagement as integral parts of farm management. The sub-themes of GAP include hygiene management, water quality control, disease prevention, and biosecurity, amongst others. So each plays a vital role in maintaining farm health and public confidence. When applied consistently, these practices not only protect consumers, but also enhance efficiency and reduce waste. This is the pathway or building blocks towards sustainability. So what I'm saying is sustainability, or going forward, you will have to implement good agricultural practices first and make it part of your whole production system. Sustainable dairy farming rests on three interconnected pillars. They talk about environmental health, economic stability, and social equity. Environmental protection underpins long-term productivity. Economic viability ensures resilience, and social responsibility maintains community trust. So the success of one depends on the others. Sustainability is by nature a balance of all three. And if you get it right, you will have triple wins. Sustainability broadens these sub-themes, similar to GAP themes, to include best practice for carbon reduction, biodiversity conservation, and circular economic practices. It also promotes worker well-being and community development. By addressing these dimensions together, the dairy farming moves beyond compliance to become a driver of positive change for society and the environment. And I want to emphasize that not all best practices to achieve sustainability goals is set in stone and might differ from region to region, between different production systems, and farm to farm. So environmental and regional factors must be taken into consideration, and for an auditor, each farm must be assessed on its own merit. So good agricultural practices form the foundation of sustainability or sustainable dairy production, focusing on food safety, animal welfare, and basic environmental protection. Sustainability, on the other hand, builds upon this by incorporating economic viability, social equity, and transparent governance. In essence, GAP ensures safe production, and sustainability ensures responsible, future-ready production. So if we can use an example of the environment, so having a good practice in place to, for instance, manage manure, it will have a direct effect on carbon footprint reduction, for instance. So the one implementing the practice must have a effect or positive effect on the outcome, and that is sustainability parameters. So what does future-ready production looks like? So traditionally, farming followed a linear path: inputs, production, and waste. Systems thinking replaces this with a circular model, for instance, where resources are reused and recycled, and the whole cycle is closed. Manure becomes fertilizer, waste becomes energy. This approach not only improves efficiency, but also reduces dependency on external inputs and strengthens environmental outcomes. So there's different focus models for sustainable farming. For instance, there's regenerative agriculture focus, and they focus on restoring ecosystems rather than merely sustaining them. Practices like cover cropping, rotational grazing, and organic matter enhancement build soil health. That's very important in the whole sustainability scope, and increase carbon capture. The result is richer soils, healthier animals, and a more resilient landscape. So proof that good ecology and good economics can go hand in hand. So if we look at practical implementation, if we look at soil health initiatives that I follow is, for instance, no-till or low-till farming. I mentioned earlier that best practice is not that is seen to improve sustainability or help towards sustainability is not always practical because of differences in regions. So no-till will work better in, for instance, regions where the soil allow for it. But if you come north, like in the northwest, the no-till can only be done biannually, for instance. Otherwise, it will have an effect on the growth of your crops. Compost application enhances microbial activity, improves water retention. If we look at managed rotational grazing, for instance, so they move livestock to new pastures, allow rest periods for recovery, build soil health, improve forage digestibility. And if we talk about cover crops, the focus is on protects and replenish the soil, minimize disturbance to the soil and reduce runoffs, increase carbon sequestration. So implement practices that focus basically on what I've just discussed. As mentioned, circular economy models turns waste into resources. Examples include manure to energy systems, composting, and nutrient recycling. These initiatives cut cost, reduce emissions, and add new revenue streams. They showcase how sustainability can also make strong business sense. So if we look at a practical example is, for instance, farm in Larsen, a case study, converts about 230,000 tons of manure annually into RNG. Anaerobic digesters break down manure to produce biogas, and this biogas is then used for electricity and heat. And digestive services as valuable fertilizer. So there's a farm in Malmesbury that also converts their manure into energy, and they are able to run their whole production system and a feed production business on all the energy that they get from the manure and the methane gas that they convert into energy. And that's quite impressive. Technology plays a crucial enabling role in sustainable dairy. Precision livestock farming, robotic milking, and data-driven management systems enhance efficiency, animal care, and environmental control. And this data-driven management systems we see in a lot of big Team R farms in South Africa, and it really makes a major difference in how the animals are managed, and the benefits is in revenue is very good. While such innovations require investment, they pay off through improved productivity and reduced waste, driving the sector forward. So I'm busy, or the research study that I'm currently conducting on good agricultural practices and sustainability in the South African dairy sector highlights several key factors influencing performance outcomes. So firstly, we found that institutional involvement and the strength of extension support systems or models stand out as a major enabler of both compliance and sustainability. So farms that benefit from structured guidance, technical training, and consistent follow-up tends to perform significantly better. This really emphasizes the importance of ongoing technical support and capacity building for farmers. Secondly, we observed clear regional differences in both DSA GAP and DSA sustainability audit results. So these differences reflect the impact of each region's unique ecological condition, infrastructure, and its institutional context, reminding us that a one-size-fits-all approach simply doesn't work. And thirdly, there were some variations linked to auditors. So the factors such as order interpretation, training, experience, and even geographical working area can influence the scoring outcomes. Interestingly enough, we found that no significant differences between production systems or herd size when it comes to gap and sustainability results. While herd size did have an effect on the composite sustainability index, so the combined sustainability index, the advantages seen in large herds was mostly operational. Things like better resource management rather than inherent sustainability edge. So I just want to let you meet the audit team of the Dairy Standard Agency, and combined, they have more than 60 years of audit experience. So the person, Rosemary Meyer, is our program administrator. That's the lady that you talk to, arranging all the audits. She's the heart and the cornerstone of all our whole audit operational process. Then Kevin Furness, the gap specialist and the auditor with the most practical dairy farming experience. Is one of the best dairy farm auditors with a unique ability to identify risk over a broad theme base. Then most of you will know Dr. Mark Chimes. He's a veterinary consultant and manager of the Animal Health and Welfare Program at Milk SA. We have Lona Fourie. She's a veterinary technician with many years of experience working for state vet departments, and Lona also specializes in other health. And then it's myself. I'm a dairy scientist with a nutritional background, more than 20 years experience in food safety and food safety management system program auditing, and also have some practical dairy farming experience. So as you can see, a very experienced team, and we really focus on making sure that our auditors are calibrated and that they are knowledgeable on all the aspects of what we audit. It's very important. It's very difficult. The environment that we operate in, it's very diverse. Every farm is different from the previous one, and we need to identify risks and also give some positive feedback to the farmer going forward. It's not just a fault-finding mission. If we do not address the audits right, we cannot contribute to improving the farms and at the end and achieving the end goal of a full sustainable dairy community in South Africa. So considering that support plays such a significant role in excelling towards sustainability goals, it is important to make support part of the package. So remember I said that a DSA sustainability audit cannot measure parameters outcomes or effect, or do not measure parameter outcomes or effects of best practice. But there are several support tools or sustainability frameworks available, models that is used by farmers for the implementation that will assist them in measuring progress towards sustainability goal. So it's more measuring tools. And I want to use this opportunity to refer to the Destiny tool. It was developed by Rihanna Reineke and Prof. James Blichnout under supervision of Dr. Hans Meissner as a project under Milk SA Research and Development Program. And this model complements DSA gap sustainability audits by deepening environmental assessments. It collects data on carbon emissions, nutrient cycling, and resource efficiency, allowing farms to benchmark their performance and identify gaps, and also to determine which good agricultural practice implemented give the best results. So Destiny and the DSI audit together provides a comprehensive picture of sustainability performance and guide continuous improvement. So in conclusion, the journey from compliance to sustainability marks a transformation in both practice and mindset. The DSI evolving role from regulatory oversight to sustainability leadership embodies this change. By embracing sustainability, producers not only meet market and environmental demands, but also ensure resilience and prosperity of South African dairy industry for generations to come. Thank you very much. Any questions and comments?
What happens if a dairy farm does not comply with the GAP requirements? Is there a process for improvement and re-evaluation?
So if a dairy farmer has failed to comply with GAP requirements, it received a report containing recommendations for improvement or a visit from the field the person working in the field for the specific processor to give them some guidance on improvement. So the producers is giving a specific time period to make corrections before a review takes place. And in most cases, the farmers may undergo a re-audit once they've met the necessary requirements.
How can milk producers prepare their businesses for GAP audits to ensure a successful outcome?
So I think the main thing is to maintain up-to-date records on animal health and milk quality and water use, for example. And they also must apply hygiene and food safety practice consistently. It doesn't help to only apply them a day or two before the audit. It's very quickly picked up by the auditors. So do it every day. And then also they can look into providing employees with training on GAPs and GAP standards, and remain proactively involved in industry initiatives promoting sustainable production. Keep up to date with regulatory compliance and requirements and long-term competitiveness within the South African dairy sector. So be informed at all times. That is, I think, the best advice I can give.
The South African dairy industry actively participates in international sustainability initiatives, such as the Dairy Sustainability Framework. How important is sustainability for the future of the industry?
So I think sustainability is essential for long-term survival of the industry. That's my opinion. By participating in initiatives such as the DSF and Dairy Declaration of Rotterdam, the South African dairy industry aims to manage resources like water and land responsibility, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and ensure social and economic stability in rural areas. So they've committed themselves by signing that declaration, and going forward, it's very important that we implement sustainability on all the farms in South Africa, or sustainability practices.
What does sustainability mean in the context of the dairy industry?
I think I've touched on that. It's basically to reduce environmental impact through water and soil conservation, ensure food safety and quality, and promoting animal health and welfare. I think that is the main focus.
Which sustainability criteria are considered most important for the dairy industry according to the Dairy Sustainability Framework, and how is South Africa performing in these areas?
So the dairy sustainability identifies 11 key sustainability criteria. You will remember I've mentioned we identified 15 in our audit criteria, but they identified 11, including greenhouse gas emissions, soil and water management, biodiversity, market development, and working conditions. So Milk SA and the DSA have already incorporated several of these criteria into our dairy strategy. And however, there is still room for improvement, a lot of room for improvement. And the dairy industry continues to work closely with experts and research institutions to advance all of these goals.
What is your message to South African consumers regarding the sustainability and quality of local dairy products?
I think the South African consumer can be confident that the local dairy industry adheres to world-class standards of food safety, sustainability, and animal welfare. So by supporting local dairy products, consumer contributes to the sustainability of the industry while helping to create jobs and stimulate economic growth in rural areas.
Well done, Tanya. Thank you so much for an excellent presentation. You really added value to our industry this morning. So we just want to say we greatly appreciate you. And then I want to tell you our next and last webinar, can you think, for 2025 is on 26 November. So please get that date in your diary. And then Shanae Pretorius will discuss a hidden spoiler in dairy, Bacillus cereus. So please, you cannot miss out on this webinar. Make sure that you register. We'll keep you posted on social media, on Facebook, LinkedIn, and on our website. And I just also want to mention that this webinar was recorded, so you are welcome to, well, within a day or two's time, to just go and have a look on our website and get the recording if you want to listen to it again. And that is all said. Thank you so much for your time, and have a wonderful afternoon. Keep well.